Julia Andrews' heartbeat quickened as she stood outside the imposing iron gates of Queenswood Manor, clutching her worn dance bag and triple-checking the address on her phone. This was definitely the place, though it seemed far too grand for a simple dance lesson. The property sprawled across what must have been several acres, with manicured gardens visible through the wrought iron. She pressed the intercom button, her finger trembling slightly. "Yes," came a crisp voice. "Julia Andrews. I'm here for Lily's first dance lesson." The gates swung open without further conversation, and Julia walked up the curved driveway, gravel crunching beneath her sneakers. She'd been teaching ballet for 5 years, but this was her first time being hired to provide private lessons at a student's home, especially one that looked like it belonged in a period drama. As she approached the entrance, the massive oak door opened to reveal a petite girl of about 8 with auburn pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. She wore a brand-new pink leotard and clutched a pair of ballet slippers to her chest. "Are you Miss Julia?" the girl asked, bouncing on her toes. "That's me," Julia replied, smiling. "And you must be Lily." "Lily Quinn," the girl corrected importantly. "I've been waiting all day. Uncle Harry says I have to be super respectful because you're a real dancer and not just a teacher." "Does he now?" Julia laughed. "Well, that's very nice of your uncle. He's in his office watching on the cameras," Lily said matter-of-factly, pointing to a small device mounted discreetly in the corner of the vast foyer. "He watches everything. He says it's for security, but I think he's just nosy." Julia glanced up at the camera, feeling suddenly self-conscious about her messy bun and worn leggings. She hadn't exactly dressed to impress, having come straight from teaching 3 back-to-back classes at the community center. "Let's not keep him waiting then," Julia said, following Lily through the mansion. The girl led her through hallways adorned with original artwork and antiques that Julia was afraid to breathe near. They passed what appeared to be a library, a formal dining room, and several sitting areas before reaching a large, empty room at the back of the house. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked an infinity pool and gardens that seemed to stretch for miles. "Uncle Harry had them put in the special floor just yesterday," Lily explained, tapping her foot on the sprung wooden floor that was perfect for dance. "And the mirrors came this morning." Indeed, one wall was now covered in professional dance mirrors, and a ballet bar had been installed along another. The room must have cost a fortune to convert, and just for private lessons. Julia wondered what kind of person spent that kind of money on a whim. "This is incredible," Julia said, setting down her bag. "Uncle Harry said you'd need proper equipment," Lily said proudly. "He gets me everything I need because my parents are always traveling. They're archaeologists," she added with the air of someone who had explained this many times before. Julia nodded, feeling a twinge of sympathy for the girl. "Well, shall we get started?" As they began with basic positions and stretches, Julia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The security camera in the corner of the room had a small red light blinking, reminding her that somewhere in this massive house, Lily's mysterious uncle was observing their lesson. Harry Quinn sat in his home office, his laptop open to the security feed from the newly converted dance studio. He'd intended to just check that everything was going smoothly for Lily's first lesson, but found himself unable to look away from the screen. The dance teacher wasn't what he'd expected. When his assistant had arranged for private lessons, he'd imagined someone older, more severe, the typical ballet instructor from his own brief childhood experience with performing arts. Instead, Julia Andrews moved with a grace that seemed effortless, demonstrating positions to Lily with patience and genuine enthusiasm. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, tendrils escaping to frame her face. Even through the grainy security footage, he could see the passion in her expressions as she guided his niece through the basics. Harry ran a hand through his dark hair and sighed. At 34, he'd become responsible for his 8-year-old niece. Rather suddenly, when his sister and brother-in-law had accepted a 2-year archaeological expedition in a remote part of South America. While they checked in regularly, the day-to-day raising of Lily had fallen to him, a bachelor whose experience with children was limited at best. The shipping empire he'd built from the ground up had made him a fortune, but nothing had prepared him for parenting. Lily had asked for dance lessons, and he'd immediately agreed, grateful for any interest she showed in settling into her new life with him. Harry closed the laptop, feeling suddenly intrusive. He shouldn't be watching like this. The camera was there for security, not for him to spy on Lily's activities. He had work to do anyway, a fleet of cargo ships waiting for his decision on a new route, investors expecting updates, and endless emails demanding responses. But 5 minutes later, he found himself opening the laptop again, just as Julia was showing Lily how to perform a perfect plie. When Julia finished the hour-long lesson, she was surprised to find a tall man waiting in the hallway outside the studio. He wore a simple but clearly expensive charcoal suit, no tie, with the top buttons of his crisp white shirt undone. His dark hair was slightly tousled and his jawline could have been carved from marble. This had to be the mysterious Uncle Harry. "Miss Andrews," he said, extending a hand. "Harry Quinn. I hope Lily wasn't too much trouble." His handshake was firm, his palm warm against hers. Julia noticed his eyes, a striking shade of green that contrasted with his dark hair. "Not at all," she replied, suddenly aware of how sweaty she must be after the lesson. "Lily has natural grace. She's going to be a wonderful dancer with practice." The girl beamed at this assessment, twirling in place. "Did you see my arabesque, Uncle Harry? Miss Julia says I have good balance." "I'm sure you were amazing, Lily," he said, his expression softening as he looked at his niece. "Why don't you go change while I talk to Miss Andrews about the schedule for your lessons?" Lily skipped away, still attempting ballet moves as she disappeared around a corner. "She's delightful," Julia said, filling the silence that followed. "You have a lovely niece." "She's certainly brought life to this place," Harry agreed, gesturing for Julia to follow him. "Can I offer you some tea or coffee, perhaps?" Julia hesitated. She had another class to teach at the community center in 2 hours, but there was enough time. "Coffee would be wonderful, thank you." He led her to a sunny kitchen that, despite its professional-grade appliances and marble countertops, felt surprisingly homey. Crayon drawings were magneted to the refrigerator, and a half-completed jigsaw puzzle occupied one end of the massive island. "I understand you come highly recommended," Harry said as he operated a complicated-looking espresso machine with practiced ease. "The director at the Academy of Dance spoke very highly of you." Julia raised an eyebrow. "You checked my references for a child's ballet lessons." A slight flush colored his cheeks. "I'm thorough when it comes to Lily." "I can see that," Julia said, glancing around at the kitchen that clearly had been adapted to accommodate a child's presence in what was otherwise a bachelor's domain. "The studio conversion is impressive. Most of my private students just push the furniture aside in their living rooms." Harry handed her a perfect cappuccino in a delicate porcelain cup. "Lily deserves the best. Her parents, my sister and her husband, are away on an extended work assignment. I want to make sure she doesn't miss out on anything while they're gone." There was something in his tone that made Julia curious. "It's wonderful that she has you. Many children don't have someone who cares that much." Harry stared into his coffee for a moment. "I'm still learning." "Corporate takeovers are easier than figuring out how to braid hair, it turns out." Julia laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to brighten the kitchen. "Well, from what I can see, you're doing a pretty good job." "High praise from someone who just met me," Harry said with a slight smile. "Though I suppose you've met worse parents in your teaching career." "You'd be surprised," Julia replied. "The dance world can bring out both the best and worst in parents. Some view their children as trophies, extensions of themselves. Others, like you, just want them to be happy." "And which kind of dancer were you?" Harry asked, his green eyes studying her with interest. Julia's smile faltered slightly. "The kind whose parents couldn't afford private lessons in mansions. I started at the community center where I teach now, actually. Mrs. Feldman saw something in me and arranged for scholarships. And yet you teach rather than perform." His question wasn't judgmental, merely curious. Julia took a sip of her coffee before answering. "I did both for a while. I was with the regional ballet company for 3 seasons. Then I injured my knee, nothing career-ending, but enough to make me reconsider my priorities. Teaching turned out to be more fulfilling than performing ever was." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "Finding purpose is important. Not everyone does." Something in his tone made Julia wonder if he was speaking from experience, but before she could respond, Lily bounded back into the kitchen, now dressed in jeans and a T-shirt with unicorns on it. "Can Miss Julia stay for lunch?" she asked, climbing onto a stool at the island. "Miss Julia probably has other students to teach," Harry said gently. "Actually, I do have another class soon," Julia confirmed, checking her watch. "But I'd be happy to schedule your next lesson before I go." They agreed on twice-weekly lessons, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m., and Harry walked Julia to the door. "Thank you for today," he said formally. "Lily hasn't been this excited about anything since moving here." "She's a joy to teach," Julia replied honestly. "I'm looking forward to Thursday." As she walked down the driveway toward the gates, Julia couldn't help but glance back. Harry still stood in the doorway, tall and imposing against the grandeur of the house, watching her leave. She gave a small wave, which he returned before disappearing inside. By Thursday, Julia had convinced herself that her slight preoccupation with Harry Quinn was simply curiosity. After all, it wasn't every day that she met a young, handsome millionaire who was raising his niece. She'd done a quick internet search after their first meeting and discovered that Harry had built Quinn shipping from a single vessel into one of the largest private shipping companies on the East Coast. The business magazines called him ruthless and brilliant, a shark in the boardroom who never lost a negotiation. That image didn't quite match the man who had carefully made her coffee and spoke so tenderly about his niece. But Julia knew better than most that people contained multitudes. She could be both a serious dance instructor and the woman who baked at 2 a.m. and sang off-key to pop songs in her shower. She arrived at Queenswood Manor precisely on time, but today the gate was already open. As she approached the front door, it swung open to reveal Harry rather than Lily. "Good afternoon," he said, looking slightly less polished than he had on Tuesday. His shirt sleeves were rolled up to reveal strong forearms, and his hair was more disheveled than before. "Lily's just finishing her homework. She insisted on completing it before her lesson." Julia smiled. "That's very responsible of her. She's a good kid," Harry agreed, leading Julia inside. "Though I can't take credit for that. Her parents did the hard part for the first 7 years. "Don't sell yourself short," Julia replied. "Children are remarkably perceptive. They know when someone truly cares about them." Harry gave her a curious look. "You sound like you speak from experience." "Professional experience," Julia clarified. "I've taught hundreds of children over the years. The ones with supportive families always do better, regardless of natural talent." They reached the studio, where Lily was already waiting, dressed in her leotard and tights, her hair attempting to be secured in a bun. "Uncle Harry tried to do my hair," she explained apologetically to Julia. "He's not very good at it yet." Harry ran a hand through his own hair, looking somewhat embarrassed. "I watched a YouTube tutorial, but it's harder than it looks." Julia laughed and set her bag down. "Why don't I show you both how to do it properly? A good ballet bun is an essential skill." She took out her hairbrush and some pins, demonstrating on Lily's hair how to create a secure ballet bun. Harry watched intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Now you try," Julia said, handing him the brush. His fingers were hesitant at first, but he followed her instructions carefully, gathering Lily's hair and twisting it with surprising gentleness. "Like this?" he asked, looking to Julia for approval. "Exactly right," she confirmed. "Now secure it with the pins. Perfect." Harry stepped back to admire his work, a proud smile transforming his features. The simple act of learning to style his niece's hair seemed to please him more than any business deal could. "Can Uncle Harry stay and watch today?" Lily asked, turning to Julia with hopeful eyes. "He said he needs to ask permission first." Julia hesitated. Having an observer would change the dynamic of the lesson, but Harry's eagerness to learn how to support Lily's interest was touching. "Of course," she agreed. "As long as he promises not to distract us." Harry held up his hands in surrender. "I'll be as quiet as a mouse. I just want to see what Lily's learning." He settled into a chair in the corner of the room, his tall frame somehow making the furniture seem small in comparison. Julia began the lesson, trying to ignore his presence, but found herself hyper-aware of his gaze as she demonstrated positions and guided Lily through exercises. To her surprise, Harry was a respectful observer. He didn't interrupt or offer unwanted suggestions, simply watched with genuine interest. Occasionally, Julia would catch his eye, and he would offer an encouraging smile that inexplicably made her heart beat faster. By the end of the lesson, Lily was proudly showing off a simple combination they'd been working on. When she finished, Harry applauded enthusiastically. "That was amazing, Lily," he exclaimed. "You're already looking like a real dancer." Lily beamed at the praise. "Miss Julia says I need to practice every day." "And you will," Harry promised. "Maybe we can clear some space in the living room for you to practice between lessons." "Or," Julia suggested, "you could use this beautiful studio you've created. No reason it should sit empty most of the week." Harry looked thoughtful. "You're right. Though I might need some guidance on what she should be practicing. I don't want to let her develop bad habits." "I could write down some exercises," Julia offered. "Basic ones that are safe for her to do on her own with your supervision." "That would be very helpful," Harry said. His phone buzzed in his pocket and he glanced at it with a frown. "Excuse me, I need to take this." "Lily, why don't you show Miss Julia your drawings while I handle this call?" He stepped out of the room, already speaking in a clipped, professional tone that was markedly different from the warm voice he used with Lily. The girl tugged on Julia's hand. "Come see." I drew pictures of all the ballet positions. Julia followed Lily to a small study adjacent to the studio, where childish but recognizable drawings of ballet positions were taped to the wall. "Uncle Harry helped me look them up online," Lily explained. "He said we could make a chart so I remember them all." "These are wonderful," Julia said, genuinely impressed by the effort. She noticed that the study, while clearly functioning as a workspace with a desk and computer, had been partially converted to accommodate Lily's interests. A bookshelf held a mix of business texts and children's books, and a small table in the corner was covered in art supplies. Harry returned a few minutes later, his expression tense. "I'm sorry about that. Work emergency." "Is everything okay?" Julia asked. He sighed. One of our ships is delayed in port due to some regulatory issues. Nothing that can't be resolved, but it requires attention. Ships, Lily piped up. Uncle Harry has lots of big ships that carry things across the ocean. He showed me on a map. Some of them are as big as this whole house. Is that so? Julia said, looking at Harry with new understanding. She knew he was successful, but the scale of his business operations was becoming clearer. Lily has a slight tendency to exaggerate, Harry said with a small smile. But yes, Quinn shipping operates internationally. It keeps me busy. Too busy, Lily complained. Sometimes he has meetings all day and I only see him at bedtime. A flash of guilt crossed Harry's face, and Julia quickly intervened. All parents and uncles have to work, Lily. That's how they take care of the people they love. I know, Lily sighed dramatically, but it's boring when he's working. Which is why activities like dance are so important, Harry said, ruffling Lily's hair affectionately, much to her dismay as it disturbed her perfect bun. And why I'm very grateful to Miss Julia. Julia felt a warmth spread through her at his words. It's my pleasure, truly. Lily is a wonderful student. As Julia gathered her things to leave, Harry surprised her by asking, "Would you be able to stay for dinner? Our housekeeper makes enough food for an army, and Lily would love to show you her latest art project." "Please stay, Miss Julia," Lily added, bouncing on her toes. Julia hesitated. This was starting to feel less like a professional relationship and more like something else. But Lily's hopeful expression was hard to resist. "I'd love to, thank you," she found herself saying. Dinner was served in a casual dining area off the kitchen rather than the formal dining room Julia had glimpsed on her first visit. The housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, was a warm, motherly woman who clearly adored Lily and treated Harry with a mix of respect and maternal concern. "Mr. Quinn works too hard," she confided to Julia as she served a delicious lasagna. "It's good to see him taking time for a proper meal with company. Mrs. Winters thinks everyone needs feeding up," Harry explained with a fond smile at the older woman. "She's been with my family since I was Lily's age. Someone has to make sure you eat something besides coffee and those protein bars," Mrs. Winters retorted. "Especially now that you have Lily to consider." The meal was surprisingly relaxed, with Lily dominating the conversation, regaling Julia with stories about her parents' archaeological adventures and her adjustment to living with her uncle. "Mom and Dad are in Peru now," she explained. "They're digging up a lost city, but there's no internet, so we only get to video call once a month when they go to the big town." "That must be hard," Julia said sympathetically. Lily shrugged. "It's okay. They're doing important work, and Uncle Harry lets me stay up late sometimes and eat ice cream for breakfast on Saturdays." Harry choked slightly on his wine. "Lily, that was supposed to be our secret." "Oops," the girl giggled. "Sorry, Uncle Harry." Julia laughed at their interaction. "Your secret is safe with me. And for what it's worth, ice cream for breakfast occasionally never hurt anyone." After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Julia her bedroom, a spacious suite that had been decorated with obvious care to make the little girl feel at home. Photos of her parents were prominently displayed, along with children's books, stuffed animals, and a small desk covered in art supplies. "Uncle Harry let me pick the color," Lily said proudly, gesturing to the lavender walls. "And he built the bookshelf himself." Julia raised an eyebrow at Harry, who was leaning against the doorframe. "You built that?" He looked slightly embarrassed. "It was a kit. I wanted Lily to have something personal, not just furniture delivered by movers." The simple admission revealed more about Harry Quinn than any internet search could have. Behind the successful businessman was a man trying his best to create a home for his niece. As bedtime approached, Lily begged for Julia to watch her bedtime routine. Uncle Harry reads me a story every night, no matter how late he gets home from work, she explained. He does all the voices. I'd love to hear that, Julia said, smiling at Harry, who looked both proud and slightly embarrassed. She sat in a corner of Lily's room as Harry read from a well-worn copy of Matilda, his deep voice shifting convincingly between characters. Lily snuggled against him, clearly treasuring this nightly ritual, and Julia felt something tug at her heart watching them together. When Lily's eyes began to droop, Harry closed the book and tucked her in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Sweet dreams, little dancer," he whispered. He gestured for Julia to follow him out of the room, leaving the door slightly ajar. "She'll be asleep within minutes," he said softly as they walked downstairs. "She always fights it, but dance days especially wear her out." In the foyer, Julia gathered her things, suddenly feeling awkward. The evening had felt oddly intimate, as if she'd been granted access to their private world. "Thank you for dinner," she said, "and for letting me see your bedtime story skills. Your Miss Trunchbull voice was particularly impressive." Harry laughed, a rich sound that Julia realized she hadn't heard enough of. "Years of corporate negotiations have given me plenty of practice with intimidating characters." A comfortable silence fell between them. "I should get going," Julia finally said, though she felt reluctant to leave. "Of course," Harry replied. "I'll walk you out." At her car, Harry seemed to hesitate before speaking. "I want to thank you properly for what you're doing for Lily. It's more than just dance lessons. You're giving her stability, a connection to something she loves during a time of transition." Julia was touched by his words. "She's a special girl. You're both adjusting admirably to a challenging situation." Harry's green eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. Would you be interested in having dinner sometime? Just the two of us?" The invitation hung in the air between them, transforming the dynamic completely. "I don't think that would be appropriate," Julia said carefully, though a part of her wanted to accept immediately. "I'm Lily's teacher." Harry nodded, accepting her answer with grace. "Of course. I understand completely. I wouldn't want to complicate things for either of you." "Thank you for understanding," Julia said, feeling a mixture of relief and disappointment. As she drove away from Queenswood Manor, Julia couldn't help but replay the evening in her mind. The comfortable domesticity, Lily's enthusiasm, and Harry's gentle parenting had created a picture that was becoming increasingly difficult to view from a purely professional distance. She told herself firmly that maintaining boundaries was the right decision. Mixing business with pleasure rarely ended well, and she genuinely cared about Lily's progress. Getting involved with the girl's uncle would only complicate matters. Still, as she pulled into the driveway of her modest apartment building, she couldn't help but wonder what dinner alone with Harry Quinn might have been like. The weeks that followed fell into a comfortable routine. Twice a week, Julia arrived at Queenswood Manor to teach Lily, whose progress was remarkable. The girl had natural talent combined with enthusiasm, a powerful combination for any young dancer. Harry continued to observe occasional lessons, always respectful and genuinely interested in his niece's development. He never mentioned dinner again, maintaining a friendly but professional relationship that Julia told herself was for the best. One Tuesday in late October, Julia arrived to find Lily unusually subdued. "Is everything okay?" she asked as they stretched at the bar. Lily shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "Uncle Harry has to go away on a business trip. He'll miss my school play." Julia's heart sank for the girl. "I'm sure he wouldn't go if it wasn't important." "I know," Lily said in a small voice. "He feels really bad about it. He yelled at somebody on the phone about it yesterday." Before Julia could respond, Harry appeared in the doorway, his expression tense. "Lily misses." Winters needs you in the kitchen. Something about cookies that need taste testing. Lily's face brightened slightly. Real cookies or the healthy kind? The real kind just this once, Harry assured her. Go ahead, Miss Julia, and I will be right here. Once Lily had disappeared, Harry ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Julia had come to recognize as a sign of stress. I'm sorry to interrupt the lesson, he said, but I wanted to speak with you privately. Of course, Julia replied. Lily mentioned your trip. Harry grimaced. That's actually what I wanted to discuss. It's unavoidable, a major crisis with our Mediterranean shipping routes that requires in-person negotiation. I'll be gone for 10 days and I'm going to miss Lily's play. She understands, Julia assured him, though she knew it was small comfort. The thing is, Harry continued, pacing slightly, Mrs. Winters will be staying with Lily, but she's not comfortable driving at night. The play is next Thursday evening, and I was wondering, this is a lot to ask. You want me to take her? Julia finished for him. Harry stopped pacing. Would you? I know it's outside your professional responsibilities, but Lily adores you, and it would mean so much to her to have someone there. Obviously, I'd compensate you for your time. I'd be happy to, Julia said without hesitation. And please don't worry about compensation. This isn't work, it's supporting a student I care about. The relief on Harry's face was palpable. Thank you, Julia, truly. It was the first time he'd used her first name, and the sound of it in his deep voice sent an unexpected thrill through her. It's nothing, she said quickly. Anyone would do the same. No, Harry said seriously. They wouldn't. You're exceptional, and he stopped abruptly, seemingly reconsidering his words. I'm very grateful, he finished more formally. Before Julia could respond, Lily bounded back into the room, a chocolate chip cookie in each hand. Mrs. Winters said to bring you both one, she announced. The moment between Julia and Harry dissolved, but something had shifted. As they bit into Mrs. Winters' perfectly baked cookies, their eyes met over Lily's head, and Julia felt a connection that was becoming increasingly difficult to deny. The day of Lily's school play arrived, and Julia found herself unexpectedly nervous as she approached Queenswood Manor. It felt different, being there without Harry, stepping into a more personal role in Lily's life. Mrs. Winters greeted her warmly. Thank goodness you're here, dear. Lily's been fretting about her costume and won't listen to my assurances. Julia found Lily in her bedroom, surrounded by discarded hairbands and ribbons, her eyes red from crying. Hey there, Julia said gently, sitting beside her on the bed. What's going on? Uncle Harry always does my hair for special things now, Lily sniffled. He's been practicing. And he was supposed to help with my costume, but now everything's wrong. Julia took in the rumpled fairy costume and Lily's tangled hair. Well, you're in luck, because hair and costumes are my specialty. I am a dance teacher after all. With patient hands, Julia smoothed and secured Lily's costume, then worked her hair into an elaborate braided crown that had the little girl gasping with delight when she looked in the mirror. It's perfect, Lily exclaimed. Wait until Uncle Harry sees the pictures. Julia drove Lily to the elementary school in her trusty old Honda, listening to the girl chatter excitedly about her 3 lines as a forest fairy in the school production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Uncle Harry helped me practice every night before he left, Lily explained. He said even though it's just 3 lines, they're the most important fairy lines in the whole play. At the school, Julia helped Lily find her class and gave her an encouraging hug before finding a seat in the auditorium. She sent a quick text to Harry with a photo of Lily in her costume, adding, "One fairy ready for her stage debut, will send videos." His response came almost immediately. "She looks beautiful. Thank you, Julia, I owe you." The play was exactly what one would expect from elementary school students, adorably chaotic, with forgotten lines, visible stage fright, and moments of unexpected brilliance. Lily delivered her 3 lines perfectly, projecting her voice just as Harry had clearly coached her to do. Julia recorded the performance, her heart swelling with pride for a child who wasn't hers but was becoming important to her nonetheless. After the play, Lily ran to Julia, still in her fairy costume. "Did you see me? Did I do good?" "You were magnificent," Julia assured her, hugging the excited child. "The best fairy in the forest, without question." "Can we call Uncle Harry?" Lily asked hopefully. "He said he might be free after his meeting." "Let's try when we get home," Julia suggested. "It's very late where he is." But as they were leaving the school, Julia's phone rang with a video call from Harry. She answered quickly, angling the screen so Lily could see. "Uncle Harry," Lily exclaimed. "Did you see my play? Miss Julia took videos." Harry's face on the screen looked tired but genuinely happy to see them. "I haven't seen the videos yet, but Miss Julia sent me a beautiful picture of you. How did it go?" As Lily launched into a detailed account of the performance, Julia studied Harry's appearance. He was clearly in a hotel room, still wearing a suit though his tie was loosened. Despite the obvious exhaustion in his eyes, he gave Lily his complete attention, asking questions and responding with enthusiasm to her story. When Lily paused for breath, Harry's eyes shifted to Julia. "Thank you for being there," he said softly. "It means more than I can say." "I wouldn't have missed it," Julia replied honestly. Something passed between them, even through the digital connection, a moment of understanding that transcended their teacher-client relationship. The moment was broken when Lily yawned widely, the excitement of the evening catching up with her. "Someone looks ready for bed," Harry observed. "Lily, why don't you go change into your pajamas while I talk to Miss Julia for a moment?" Lily nodded sleepily and handed the phone to Julia before heading to the back of the car to get her overnight bag. "She was wonderful," Julia told Harry once Lily was out of earshot. "I'm sending you the videos now. She spoke clearly, remembered all her lines, and didn't fidget like some of the other children." "Thank you for doing this," Harry said, his voice low and sincere. "I know it's above and beyond your responsibilities." "It's my pleasure," Julia assured him. "Lily's special." Harry's expression softened. "Yes, she is." He hesitated before adding, "And so are you, Julia." The way he said her name made her heart skip a beat. "Harry, I know what you said about keeping things professional," he interrupted gently. "And I respect that completely. But when I get back, I'd like to talk about possibilities." Julia found herself nodding. "I'd like that too." A slow smile spread across Harry's face, transforming his tired features. "Good, that's good. I'll be home on Sunday." "We'll be waiting," Julia said, then quickly corrected herself. "I mean, Lily will be eager to see you." Harry's smile widened, seeing through her correction. "Goodbye, Julia. And thank you again." After ending the call, Julia sat in the car for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. The boundaries she'd so carefully maintained were blurring, and she wasn't entirely sure she wanted to redraw them. Lily climbed into the passenger seat, now changed into unicorn pajamas and clutching a stuffed rabbit. "Uncle Harry looked happy," she observed with a child's directness. "He smiles different when he talks to you." "Does he?" Julia asked, starting the car to hide her flustered reaction. "MMHMM," Lily nodded, already half asleep. "It's his real smile, not his work smile or his I'm tired but trying to be nice smile. Grandma says he needs someone to make him use his real smile more." Julia didn't know how to respond to that, so she simply drove back to Queenswood Manor, her mind racing with thoughts of Harry's real smile and what it might mean for both of them. Sunday arrived with unexpected nervousness for Julia. Her regular Thursday lesson with Lily had been covered by another instructor from the community center, as Julia had previously scheduled commitments she couldn't break. Now, as she prepared for Harry's return, she found herself changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that her friends always said brought out her eyes. Harry had texted that morning. Back in town, picking Lily up from her playdate at 3, lesson still on for 4. She'd replied with a professional, "Absolutely, see you then." But now, as she drove to Queenswood Manor, her heartbeat quickened at the thought of seeing Harry again. Their video call conversation had opened a door that couldn't easily be closed, and Julia wasn't sure she wanted to close it anyway. When she arrived, the gates opened automatically as they always did, but instead of going to the front door, Julia found Harry waiting for her in the driveway. He looked refreshed despite his long journey, dressed in casual jeans and a dark green sweater that matched his eyes. "Julia," he said, his voice warm as he approached her car. "It's good to see you." "You too," she replied, suddenly shy as she stepped out. "How was the rest of your trip?" "Successful but exhausting," Harry admitted. "But let's not talk about that. Lily's been telling me all about your heroic rescue of her play experience. Apparently, your hair braiding skills are magical and you knew exactly how to fix her costume." Julia laughed. "Hardly magical. Just years of recital emergencies with students." "Still," Harry said, his eyes serious, "you stepped in when she needed someone. That means everything to me." They stood looking at each other for a moment, the air between them charged with unspoken words. "Uncle Harry." Lily's voice broke the moment as she came running from the house. "You're supposed to be showing Miss Julia the surprise," Harry chuckled. "I was getting to that, Lily." "Surprise?" Julia questioned, looking between them. "Come see." Lily grabbed her hand, tugging her toward the house. Inside, Lily led them not to the studio but to the formal dining room, which had been transformed. A beautiful table setting for 3 had been arranged, with flowers and candles. Handmade place cards in Lily's distinctive style marked each setting. "We're having a thank you dinner," Lily announced proudly. "For being the best dance teacher and for coming to my play and for being nice when Uncle Harry had to go away." Julia turned to Harry, touched by the gesture. "This is lovely. You didn't have to do this." "We wanted to," Harry said simply. "Dinner won't be ready until after Lily's lesson, though. Mrs. Winters is preparing something special." The lesson proceeded as usual, with Lily showing off the practice she'd done during the week and learning new steps. Harry observed from his usual chair, but Julia felt his gaze more intensely than before, aware of the conversation waiting to happen once Lily was in bed. After dinner, which was a delicious meal of Julia's favorite pasta, information Lily had apparently extracted during previous conversations, Lily's bedtime routine commenced. Tonight, Julia was officially invited to be part of story time, settling into a comfortable chair in Lily's room as Harry read another chapter of their current book. When Lily was finally asleep, Harry quietly led Julia downstairs to the library she'd glimpsed on her first visit. It was a magnificent room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, comfortable leather chairs, and a fireplace where a small fire crackled. "Wine," Harry offered, gesturing to a decanter on a side table. "Please," Julia accepted, needing something to steady her nerves. Harry poured 2 glasses and handed one to her before sitting in the chair opposite. For a moment, they sipped in companionable silence. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Harry finally began, "about keeping things professional because of your relationship with Lily." Julia nodded, waiting for him to continue. "I respect that completely," he went on. "Lily's well-being comes first for both of us, but I also think—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think we might be missing an opportunity here." "What kind of opportunity?" Julia asked, though she knew the answer. Harry set his wine glass down and leaned forward. Julia, I've never met anyone quite like you. You're not impressed by all this. He gestured around at the luxurious surroundings, which is refreshing. You care about Lily for who she is, not because she's my niece. You're talented, kind, and if I may be direct, I find myself thinking about you far more often than is appropriate for Lily's dance teacher. Julia couldn't help but smile. I've been thinking about you too. More than I should be thinking about a student's uncle. Harry's face lit up with that real smile Lily had mentioned. So where does that leave us? Complicated, Julia admitted. I still believe in maintaining professional boundaries, but, Harry prompted gently. But I also believe in being honest about feelings, Julia continued. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to you, Harry. It's not just about who you are or what you have. It's how you are with Lily, how you've created a home for her, how you care so deeply about doing the right thing. Harry reached across the space between them and took her hand. His touch was warm and steady. What if we take this slowly? Get to know each other better outside of the lessons. I want to do this right, Julia. Julia turned her hand to intertwine her fingers with his. Slowly sounds good. But what about Lily? Lily adores you already, Harry pointed out. But you're right, we should be careful about how we proceed. Children can form attachments quickly, and I don't want her hurt if. He trailed off. If things don't work out between us, Julia finished for him. That's a valid concern. Harry nodded. So slowly and discreetly to start, perhaps dinner this weekend, just the two of us, Julia smiled. I'd like that very much. As their dinner date approached, Julia found herself both excited and nervous. She'd been on dates before, of course, but none that felt this significant. Harry wasn't just another man, he was Lily's uncle, her student's guardian, and a person who was already intertwined with her life in meaningful ways. They'd agreed to meet at a restaurant rather than having Harry pick her up, a small attempt at discretion that seemed sensible given their situation. Julia chose a simple black dress that was elegant without being overly formal, paired with her one good pair of heels. The restaurant Harry had selected was upscale but not ostentatious, tucked away in a historic part of the city where the stone buildings and gas lamps created a romantic atmosphere. As Julia approached the entrance, she spotted Harry waiting for her, tall and handsome in a tailored suit. "You look beautiful," he said as she reached him, his eyes appreciative but respectful. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a flutter in her stomach at the warmth in his gaze. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Inside, they were led to a secluded table near a window overlooking a small courtyard garden. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation and the gentle clinking of silverware against fine china. "No Mrs. Winters tonight?" Julia asked as they settled in. Harry smiled. "Lily is having a sleepover at her friend Emma's house. Mrs. Winters is enjoying a well-deserved evening off. So no bedtime story duty tonight," Julia observed. "Not tonight," Harry agreed. "Though I admit, after years of business dinners and corporate events, reading Charlotte's Web is refreshingly straightforward." Their conversation flowed easily as they ordered and began their meal. Julia learned about Harry's journey from a middle-class upbringing to building his shipping empire, while she shared stories of her dance career and the fulfillment she found in teaching. "What made you start Quinn shipping?" she asked as they enjoyed their entrees. "Was it always a passion?" Harry considered the question thoughtfully. Not shipping specifically, but creating something, building a business that employs people and serves a purpose, that was always the goal. "My father worked for the same company for 40 years, never missed a day, and was let go with minimal severance when they restructured. I wanted to build something different, something I controlled." "And you've certainly done that," Julia observed. Lily mentioned your company has offices on 3 continents, Harry nodded, looking slightly embarrassed. 4, actually. We've expanded significantly in the past 5 years. He paused, taking a sip of his wine. But enough about my work. Tell me about your dancing. Do you miss performing? Julia appreciated his interest in her far less glamorous career. Sometimes, there's a thrill to being on stage that's hard to replicate, but teaching brings different joys watching a student master a difficult step, seeing their confidence grow. She smiled. Like Lily mastering her first perfect pirouette last week. She practiced that turn for hours after you left, Harry revealed. In the kitchen, the hallway, even while brushing her teeth. Mrs. Winters nearly had a heart attack when she tried it on the stairs. They both laughed, and Julia felt a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the wine. You're remarkable with her, Harry said more seriously. She was so withdrawn when she first came to live with me. Her parents' departure was necessary but difficult for her to understand. Dance has given her something to focus on, a joy of her own. Children are resilient, Julia said, and having a stable, loving home makes all the difference. You've created that for her, Harry. Don't underestimate how important that is. Harry reached across the table and took her hand. Thank you for seeing that. Sometimes I worry I'm not enough, that she needs more than what I can provide. You're more than enough, Julia assured him, squeezing his hand. Trust me, I've seen all kinds of family situations through my students. What Lily has with you is special. Their eyes held for a long moment, and Julia felt something shifting between them, deepening into a connection that went beyond initial attraction. After dinner, they walked along the riverfront, the city lights reflecting on the water. It was a clear autumn night, cool but not cold, with stars visible despite the urban setting. I've lived here for 10 years, Harry commented as they strolled, and I rarely take the time to appreciate how beautiful this city can be. Too busy building your empire, Julia teased gently. Something like that, he admitted. Before Lily came to live with me, I worked constantly. The company was everything. He glanced at her. That's changed now. Perspectives shift when you're responsible for someone else's happiness. And what about your happiness? Julia asked. Is that allowed too? Harry stopped walking and turned to face her. I'm working on that part, he said softly. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Harry's gaze dropped to her lips briefly before returning to her eyes, a silent question in his expression. Julia answered by stepping closer, tilting her face up to his. Harry's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch gentle as he leaned down to press his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but deepened as Julia's arms wrapped around his neck. When they finally pulled apart, they were both slightly breathless. I've been wanting to do that since you fixed Lily's ballet bun, Harry admitted, his voice husky. Julia laughed softly. That long? I've been thinking about it since you learned to make a proper cup of coffee. In my defense, Harry said, pulling her closer, you're very distracting when you're demonstrating dance positions. Am I? Julia teased, enjoying the warmth of his arms around her waist. Incredibly, he murmured before kissing her again, more confidently this time. When they finally parted for the evening, Harry walked Julia to her car. When can I see you again? He asked, reluctant to let her go. Just you, I mean. Obviously, I'll see you at Lily's lesson on Tuesday. I'm free Friday evening, Julia suggested. Maybe something more casual this time. Not that this wasn't lovely, she hastened to add. Harry smiled. Casual sounds perfect. I know a great little jazz club that serves incredible food, live music, relaxed atmosphere. It's a date, Julia agreed, loving the way his face lit up at her acceptance. He kissed her once more before opening her car door. Drive safely. Text me when you get home. the simple request, born of genuine concern rather than possessiveness, warmed Julia's heart. "I will." As she drove home, Julia couldn't wipe the smile from her face. The evening had exceeded her expectations in every way. Harry was thoughtful, intelligent, and surprisingly humble for someone of his success. Most importantly, he was genuine. The man who read bedtime stories and built bookshelves for his niece was the same man who ran an international shipping company. When she arrived home, she texted Harry as promised. "Home safe. Thank you for a wonderful evening." His reply came immediately. "The pleasure was all mine. Sweet dreams, Julia." As she prepared for bed, Julia allowed herself to imagine possibilities. It was early days, of course, but for the first time in a long while, she felt excited about where a relationship might lead. The next few weeks brought a delicate balancing act as Julia and Harry navigated their growing relationship alongside their established roles in Lily's life. During dance lessons, they maintained a friendly professionalism that wouldn't raise eyebrows, but their private dates became the highlights of Julia's week. Harry took her to the Promise Jazz Club, where they sat close together in a dimly lit corner, his arm around her shoulders as they listened to soulful music. Another evening they cooked dinner together at Julia's modest apartment, laughing as Harry, accustomed to Mrs. Winter's culinary expertise, struggled with basic cooking techniques. "How can someone who runs a multinational corporation not know how to chop an onion?" Julia teased as she demonstrated the proper technique. "Different skill sets," Harry defended himself with a grin. "I can negotiate a multi-million-dollar shipping contract, but apparently vegetable preparation is beyond me." "Lily mentioned you make excellent pancakes," Julia pointed out. "Ah, but pancakes are a specialty," Harry replied, sliding his arms around her waist from behind as she continued chopping. "And they're made with a mix. Mrs. Winters would be horrified." Julia leaned back against his chest, enjoying the comfortable intimacy they were developing. "Your secret is safe with me." As November turned to December, the question of how to handle their relationship with Lily became more pressing. The little girl was perceptive, and Julia suspected she was already picking up on the change in dynamic between her uncle and her dance teacher. "We should tell her," Harry said one evening as they sat in his library after Lily had gone to bed. Julia had officially stayed for dinner, but their lingering conversation had stretched the evening longer. "Are you sure?" Julia asked, curled up beside him on the couch. "We've only been dating for a month." Harry stroked her hair thoughtfully. "I know it hasn't been long, but this feels significant to me, Julia, and Lily adores you already. I think she'd be thrilled." "What if?" Julia hesitated, voicing her deepest fear. "What if things don't work out between us? I don't want to hurt her." Harry turned to face her more fully. "Is that what you're worried about? That this is temporary?" "I don't want it to be," Julia admitted. "But relationships don't always last, no matter how promising they seem at first." Harry took her hands in his. "I can't predict the future, Julia, but I can tell you that what I feel for you isn't fleeting. You've become important to me, to both of us, in a way I never expected." Julia squeezed his hands, touched by his sincerity. "You're important to me, too. I just want to be careful with Lily's feelings." "How about a compromise?" Harry suggested. "We tell Lily we're spending time together as friends outside of her lessons and see how she responds. No pressure, no big declarations, just honesty about the fact that we enjoy each other's company." Julia nodded, relieved by his understanding. "That sounds perfect." They decided to talk to Lily that weekend, when there would be time to address any questions or concerns she might have. Saturday morning found the three of them in the kitchen, with Lily enthusiastically helping Mrs. Winters make cinnamon rolls while Harry and Julia exchanged nervous glances over their coffee. When breakfast was served, Harry cleared his throat. Lily, Miss Julia and I want to talk to you about something. Lily looked up from her cinnamon roll, curiosity in her eyes. Is it about my dance recital? Because I've been practicing my solo every day, even when you're in your boring meetings. Julia smiled at the girl's earnestness. Your dancing is coming along wonderfully, Lily, but that's not what we wanted to discuss. Harry took over. You know how Miss Julia comes here twice a week to teach you ballet? Lily nodded, licking icing from her fingers. Well, Miss Julia and I have also been spending time together when you're not having lessons, Harry continued carefully. As friends. Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. Like playdates, Julia laughed softly. Sort of like that, yes. Adult playdates. We enjoy talking and doing things together. Oh, Lily said, considering this information. Then her face brightened. Like when Mommy and Daddy go on date nights. They said those are special times for just them. Harry shot a slightly panicked look at Julia before responding. It's similar to that, yes. But Miss Julia and I are just getting to know each other better right now. Lily seemed to accept this explanation, but then asked the question they'd been anticipating. Do you like Miss Julia, Uncle Harry? Emma says her big sister likes her boyfriend and they kiss and stuff. Harry's cheeks colored slightly. I do like Miss Julia very much, yes. And I like your uncle very much too, Lily, Julia added gently. Lily beamed at this information. Good. Because I like Miss Julia a lot and I want her to come over more, not just for dance lessons. The simple acceptance, so characteristic of children, washed away the tension in the room. Harry reached under the table to squeeze Julia's hand, relief evident in his expression. So, you kiss? Lily asked bluntly, causing both adults to choke slightly on their coffee. Lily, Harry began awkwardly. That's sometimes, Julia interrupted with a smile, deciding honesty was best. When it feels right. Lily nodded sagely. That's okay then. Emma's sister says you should only kiss people you really like. Emma's sister sounds very wise, Harry said, grateful for the uncomplicated way his niece was processing this development. Can Miss Julia come to our Christmas party? Lily asked, already moving on to practical matters. I want to show her our big tree when we decorate it next weekend. Harry looked at Julia questioningly. We do host a small holiday gathering every year for close friends and family. It would be wonderful if you could join us, if you're comfortable with that. The invitation represented another step forward, meeting Harry's wider circle, being acknowledged as someone important in his and Lily's lives. Julia found she wanted that very much. I'd love to come, she said warmly. And I'd be happy to help with the tree decorating too if you'd like. Lily clapped her hands in excitement. Yes, and you can help bake cookies with me and Mrs. Winters. Uncle Harry tries, but he always burns them. I do not always burn them, Harry protested with mock indignation. Just occasionally. The conversation shifted to Christmas plans, with Lily chattering about decorations and traditions. Under the table, Harry continued to hold Julia's hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm in a gesture that felt both intimate and full of promise. Later, as they walked through the gardens while Lily had her piano lesson, another activity Harry had arranged to enrich his niece's life, Julia expressed her relief at how well their conversation had gone. She took it so casually, she marveled. I was worried she might feel confused or threatened. Children often surprise us with their adaptability, Harry observed. And Lily already had a relationship with you that she values. This just means she gets to see you more often, which from her perspective is only positive. Julia leaned into his side as they walked, enjoying the crisp December air and the comfort of his arm around her shoulders. She's a special little girl. You've done an amazing job with her, Harry. We're figuring it out together, he said modestly. But having you in our lives has made a difference, for both of us. The warmth in his voice made Julia's heart swell. "You've changed my life too, you know. Before I met you and Lily, I was so focused on my career, on building my reputation as a teacher. I'd forgotten how important connections are real ones, not just professional relationships." Harry stopped walking and turned to face her. "Julia," he began, his expression serious, "I need you to know something, what I feel for you. It's become important, essential even. I know we agreed to take things slowly, and I respect that completely, but I also want to be clear about my intentions." Julia's breath caught at the intensity in his green eyes. "What are your intentions, Harry Quinn?" A slow smile spread across his face. "To love you if you'll let me. Not just for now, but for as long as you'll have me." The declaration, simple but profound, brought tears to Julia's eyes. "I think I could be persuaded," she whispered, rising on her tiptoes to kiss him softly. Harry's arms tightened around her, deepening the kiss until they were both breathless. When they finally pulled apart, snowflakes had begun to fall gently around them, dusting their hair and shoulders with white. "Perfect timing," Harry murmured, looking up at the sky. "Lily's been praying for snow before Christmas." "She'll say it's magic," Julia predicted, her heart full as they stood together in the growing wonderland. "Maybe it is," Harry replied, his eyes never leaving hers. "It certainly feels that way to me." Tree decorating at Queenswood Manor the following weekend turned out to be a much grander affair than Julia had anticipated. The tree itself was enormous, a 12-foot Fraser fir that filled the entrance hall with its fresh pine scent. Boxes of ornaments were brought down from the attic, many of them family heirlooms that Harry explained had been passed down through generations. "This one was my grandmother's," he told Julia, carefully unwrapping a delicate glass angel. "And these," he indicated a set of hand-painted wooden ornaments, "belong to my parents. I've been adding to the collection for Lily, one new ornament each year to represent something significant that happened." "What's this year's ornament?" Julia asked, helping Lily hang candy canes on the lower branches. "It's a secret," Lily exclaimed. "Uncle Harry won't tell me until Christmas Eve. That's our tradition." Mrs. Winters provided hot chocolate and fresh cookies as they worked, Christmas music playing softly in the background. Julia found herself enveloped in the warm domesticity of the scene, watching as Harry lifted Lily to place ornaments on higher branches, the two of them laughing together. "You're quiet," Harry observed when he joined Julia for a cookie break. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," she assured him. "I'm just taking it all in." "This is lovely, Harry," he smiled, understanding in his eyes. "It's better with you here." The Quinn Christmas party, held the weekend before Christmas, introduced Julia to Harry's wider circle. His business partners were there with their families, along with friends he'd known since college and relatives who cooed over Lily and expressed delight at meeting Harry's Julia. At last. "You've been the subject of speculation," Harry's cousin Eliza confided to Julia as they stood by the punch bowl. "Harry hasn't introduced anyone to the family since before Lily came to live with him. You must be special." Julia blushed, unsure how to respond to such frank assessment. "We're still getting to know each other," she said diplomatically. Eliza laughed. "Of course you are, but I haven't seen my cousin look at anyone the way he looks at you. Not ever." Throughout the evening, Julia observed Harry in his element, the confident host, the beloved family member, the respected businessman. Yet whenever their eyes met across the room, his expression softened in a way that seemed reserved just for her. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Lily, exhausted from excitement and staying up well past her bedtime, fell asleep on a sofa in the library. Harry carried her upstairs to bed, leaving Julia to say goodnight to the last departing guests. When he returned, He found Julia admiring the Christmas tree, now lit only by its twinkling lights as the other house lights had been dimmed. "You were wonderful tonight," he said, coming to stand behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "Everyone loved you." "They're all very nice," Julia replied, leaning back against his chest. "Your family is lovely, and your business associates seem to respect you tremendously." "They're good people," Harry agreed. "Though I noticed Edward Talmadge monopolizing your time for quite a while. Should I be jealous?" Julia laughed softly. "Hardly. He was picking my brain about dance schools for his daughter. Apparently she's showing talent and he wanted recommendations." "Ah," Harry said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Using your expertise, not your charm. That's acceptable then." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lights twinkle on the tree. "Stay tonight," Harry said suddenly, his voice low in her ear. Julia turned in his arms to face him. "Harry, not like that," he clarified quickly. "Unless. But no, that's not what I meant. We have a guest room prepared. It's late and the roads are icy. I'd feel better knowing you're safe here." The concern in his eyes touched her. "What will Lily think?" "Lily will be thrilled to find you at breakfast," Harry said simply. "And it's practical. The weather report is calling for freezing rain overnight." Julia considered the offer. It did make sense, and the thought of navigating icy roads after such a wonderful evening was unappealing. "All right," she agreed. "Thank you." The guest room turned out to be a beautifully appointed suite with a 4-poster bed and adjoining bathroom. Mrs. Winters had thoughtfully left out a new toothbrush and essential toiletries, along with a soft robe that Julia suspected might have been purchased specifically for her. After Harry had shown her to the room and kissed her goodnight with admirable restraint, Julia found herself standing at the window, watching snowflakes dance in the security lights that illuminated the grounds. The evening had been magical in many ways, but what struck her most was how natural it felt to be part of the Quinn household, how seamlessly she seemed to fit into their lives. It was a dangerous thought. Despite Harry's declarations and her own growing feelings, Julia knew that relationships required more than emotion to succeed. There were practical considerations: her career, his wealth and status, Lily's well-being, all factors that complicated their connection. Yet as she climbed into the luxurious bed, Julia couldn't help but imagine a future where evenings like this were not special occasions but everyday life. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. Morning brought the pitter-patter of small feet and a knock on Julia's door before it burst open to reveal Lily in candy cane pajamas. "You stayed," the girl exclaimed joyfully. "Uncle Harry said you might. We're making pancakes, not the mixed kind. Mrs. Winters is teaching us the real way." "I'll be right down," Julia promised, touched by the child's enthusiasm. In the kitchen, she found Harry already at work, flour smudged on his cheek as he measured ingredients under Mrs. Winters' watchful eye. He looked up when Julia entered, his smile transforming his face. "Good morning," he said warmly. "Sleep well." "Perfectly," Julia replied, accepting the mug of coffee he handed her. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, sending a now familiar thrill through her. Breakfast was a lively affair, with Lily regaling them with a detailed account of her dreams and plans for the school holiday that was about to begin. Julia found herself naturally included in these plans: sledding if it snowed more, a trip to see the Nutcracker, cookie baking, and present wrapping. "You'll come for Christmas, right?" Lily asked suddenly, looking at Julia with hopeful eyes. "Uncle Harry said I should ask you." "We do presents in the morning and then a big dinner. Sometimes we stay in our pajamas all day." Julia glanced at Harry, who was watching her with a similarly hopeful expression. "I'd love to join you for part of the day," she said carefully. "But I do have a family tradition of my own on Christmas evening." What tradition? Lily asked curiously. I volunteer at the community center, Julia explained. We host a dinner and small performance for people who might not have anywhere else to go for the holiday. That's wonderful, Harry said, genuine admiration in his voice. Perhaps. Would it be presumptuous to ask if Lily and I might join you for that part of your day? The question surprised Julia. You want to volunteer, why not? Harry shrugged. It would be good for Lily to experience giving back, and I'd like to see this part of your life. Can we, Miss Julia? Lily asked excitedly. I could help serve food. I'm very careful with trays now. Mrs. Winters has been teaching me. The image of Harry Quinn, shipping magnate and millionaire, serving holiday meals alongside her at the community center was unexpected but touching. If you're sure, Julia said, then yes, I'd love for you both to join me. Lily clapped her hands in delight while Harry reached across the table to squeeze Julia's hand, his eyes conveying a message that needed no words. He wanted to be part of every aspect of her life, not just the convenient or glamorous parts. As Christmas approached, Julia found herself spending more time at Queenswood Manor. She helped Lily practice for a small holiday performance her dance class was giving, assisted with wrapping presents, discovering that Harry, for all his business acumen, was hopeless with ribbon, and even joined them for an evening of caroling in the neighborhood, an activity that revealed Harry had a surprisingly good singing voice. You've been hiding talents from me, she teased as they walked back to the house, Lily running ahead with some neighborhood children. One tries to maintain some mystery, he replied with a grin. Besides, I could say the same for you. I had no idea you were so good at wrapping oddly shaped packages. Years of practice with dance competition trophies and fragile costume pieces, Julia explained. A useful skill at this time of year. Harry's arm slipped around her waist as they walked. You've made this Christmas special, Julia. For both of us. Last year was challenging. Lily was still adjusting to living here, missing her parents terribly. I was trying to figure out how to be what she needed. It was lovely in its way, but nothing like this. Julia leaned into him, warmed by more than just her winter coat. You've made it special for me, too. I'm usually so busy with the community center preparations that Christmas becomes more obligation than celebration. This year feels different. Good different? Harry asked, a vulnerability in his question that touched her. The best different, she assured him, rising on her tiptoes to kiss his cold cheek. Christmas morning arrived with a light dusting of fresh snow and excited phone calls from Lily's parents, who were briefly in an area with decent communication. Julia arrived mid-morning as arranged, laden with presents and immediately enveloped in hugs from an exuberant Lily. Miss Julia, you're here. We waited to open the big presents. The girl exclaimed, pulling her toward the library where an impressive array of gifts surrounded the smaller of the two Christmas trees. Harry greeted her with a kiss that lingered just long enough to make her cheeks flush. Merry Christmas, he murmured against her lips. I'm glad you're here. The present opening was a joyful chaos, with Lily exclaiming over each gift with genuine delight. Julia had carefully selected books and art supplies for the girl, along with a special necklace with a ballet shoe charm. It's beautiful, Lily gasped, immediately asking Harry to help her put it on. I'll wear it for every performance. For Harry, Julia had chosen a first edition of his favorite novel, a lucky find at an antique bookshop, and a hand-knitted scarf in deep green that matched his eyes. You made this? He asked, running his fingers over the soft wool. Julia nodded. It's a hobby I picked up during recovery from my knee injury. Keeps the hands busy during downtime. It's perfect, he said, immediately wrapping it around his neck. I'll treasure it. Harry's gifts to Julia revealed how well he'd come to know her in their months together. a beautiful leather-bound journal for her choreography notes, professional quality dance photography books she'd admired in a shop window, and a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny ballerina charm that matched Lily's necklace. "It's too much," she protested as he fastened the bracelet around her wrist. "It's not nearly enough," he replied softly, so only she could hear. The final surprise came when Harry presented Lily with her traditional annual ornament, a small silver frame containing a photo of the three of them from the tree decorating day, laughing together as they hung ornaments. "This year's special memory," he explained, as Lily examined it with wide eyes. "New friends becoming family." The simple words brought tears to Julia's eyes, which she quickly blinked away before Lily could notice. Harry, however, saw and pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Too much," he whispered. Julia shook her head. "Just right," she assured him. Later, as promised, they all changed clothes and headed to the community center. Julia had worried that Harry might feel out of place in the humble surroundings, but he rolled up his sleeves and pitched in without hesitation, helping set up tables and carry food from the kitchen. Lily proved to be an excellent helper, her natural charm bringing smiles to the faces of elderly guests and children alike, as she carefully distributed rolls and filled water glasses. Julia watched with pride as the little girl engaged a shy boy in conversation, gradually drawing him out until he was laughing at her stories. "She's remarkable," observed Mrs. Feldman, the community center director who had been Julia's own mentor years ago. "And so is he," she added, nodding toward Harry, who was patiently listening to an elderly man's lengthy story while serving mashed potatoes. "They both are," Julia agreed, her heart full as she watched the pair who had become so important to her. The evening included a simple talent show, with community members sharing songs, poetry, and dance. Lily, who had been practicing in secret with Julia, performed a short ballet piece that earned enthusiastic applause. Harry watched from the back of the room, his expression a mixture of pride and something deeper that made Julia's pulse quicken. As the event wound down and guests began to leave with leftovers and small gifts, Harry found Julia organizing donated coats to be distributed. "This is amazing," he said, helping her fold a scarf. "How long have you been doing this?" "Since I was about Lily's age," Julia replied. "My mom was a single parent and money was tight. The community center was where I discovered dance, where I found my passion. Giving back seemed natural." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "The Quinn Foundation donates to various charities, but it's all very removed, checks written, reports received. This is different, immediate." "Both types of giving are important," Julia assured him. "Not everyone can be hands-on with every cause they support." "True," Harry acknowledged, "but I think I've been missing something. Lily certainly has, seeing her tonight." He glanced across the room where Lily was helping an elderly woman into her coat. "She's learning something no amount of money could teach her." The drive back to Queenswood Manor was quiet, with Lily falling asleep in the back seat of Harry's car, exhausted from the day's excitement. When they arrived, Harry carried her inside and up to bed while Julia waited in the library, enjoying the peaceful glow of the Christmas tree. When Harry returned, he sat beside her on the sofa, taking her hand in his. "Thank you for sharing your tradition with us. It meant a lot to Lily, and to me." "Thank you for wanting to be part of it," Julia replied. "Most men in your position wouldn't have spent their Christmas serving dinner to strangers." "Most men in my position haven't been lucky enough to find you," Harry said simply. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. "I have one more gift. I was saving it for a quiet moment." Julia's heart raced as he placed the box in her hand. It was small, jewelry-sized, but not the distinctive shape of a ring box. She opened it carefully to reveal a key. "A key?" she questioned, looking up at him. to Queenswood, Harry explained. I'm not proposing, Julia, not yet. I know it's too soon and we're still finding our way, but I want you to know that you're welcome here always, that this can be a home for you too in whatever capacity feels right. The gesture, thoughtful and without pressure, touched Julia deeply. Harry, you don't have to use it, he hastened to add. It's symbolic as much as practical. I just want you to know that Lily and we want you in our lives. Permanently. Julia closed her hand around the key, feeling its weight not just physically but emotionally. I want that too, she admitted. I've been trying to be cautious, to remember my professional boundaries, but the truth is I fell in love with both of you months ago. The words, finally spoken aloud, hung in the air between them. Harry's eyes widened slightly before his face broke into that real smile Lily had identified so accurately. Say that again, he requested softly. I love you, Julia repeated, more confidently this time. I love you and I love Lily and I want to be part of your lives. Harry pulled her into his arms, his kiss conveying all the emotion words couldn't express. When they finally parted, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, he whispered. More than I thought possible. They sat together in the quiet library, the Christmas tree lights casting a warm glow over them, both understanding that this was just the beginning of their journey together. There would be adjustments and challenges ahead: Julia's career, Harry's business responsibilities, Lily's ongoing needs, but the foundation they had built was strong. Stay tonight, Harry asked, echoing his invitation from the Christmas party but with a new depth of meaning. Julia nodded, her decision made. Tonight, and many more nights to come. As winter melted into spring, Julia found herself gradually spending more time at Queenswood Manor than at her own apartment. The key Harry had given her for Christmas became well used as she came and went freely, sometimes arriving early to help with Lily's morning routine when Harry had early meetings, other times staying late into the evening after the girl was asleep. Lily's dance lessons continued, but the distinction between Julia's professional and personal roles had blurred considerably. She was still Lily's teacher, but she was also becoming a constant, loving presence in the girl's life, helping with homework, attending school events, and creating special memories together. One warm April afternoon, Julia arrived at Queenswood to find Harry on a video call in his home office, the door ajar as he spoke with Lily's parents. She paused in the hallway, not wanting to interrupt, but Harry spotted her and waved her in. Julia's just arrived, he was saying to the screen. Would you like to say hello? Julia entered the office somewhat hesitantly. She'd heard so much about Catherine and James Quinn, but had never spoken to them directly. Julia, Catherine's face lit up on the screen. Though the connection was slightly pixelated, the resemblance between her and Lily was unmistakable. We've heard so much about you from both Harry and Lily. It's wonderful to finally meet you, even virtually. It's lovely to meet you too, Julia replied, taking the seat Harry offered beside him. Lily talks about you both constantly. She's so proud of your work. And we're incredibly proud of her progress in dance, James added. Harry sends us videos when the connection allows. You're clearly an excellent teacher. The conversation flowed easily, with Lily's parents expressing genuine interest in Julia's background and career. They seemed unsurprised by her presence in Harry's office, suggesting that Harry had shared the nature of their relationship during previous calls. We're hoping to arrange a visit home in August, Catherine explained. The excavation is progressing well, and we should be able to take a few weeks' break. We're so looking forward to meeting you in person, Julia. I'd like that too, Julia replied honestly. Lily will be thrilled to see you. After the call ended, Harry turned to Julia with a thoughtful expression. That went well. They seem lovely, Julia agreed, "and very supportive of us." Harry nodded, taking her hand. "I've kept them updated. They're happy for us and grateful to you for being there for Lily." "There's something else on your mind," Julia observed, reading his expression with the familiarity that had developed between them. Harry smiled ruefully. "You know me too well already." He hesitated before continuing. "Their visit in August has me thinking about the future. About what happens when they eventually complete their expedition next year and return permanently." Julia had thought about this too, the temporary nature of Harry's guardianship of Lily, and what it might mean for their relationship. "You're worried about how our relationship will change when Lily returns to living with her parents," she guessed. "Partly," Harry admitted. "But more than that, I'm thinking about what I want our future to look like, regardless of living arrangements. I know Lily will eventually return to her parents' home, but that doesn't mean she won't still be part of our lives." "Our lives," Julia repeated softly, the implication clear. Harry met her gaze directly. "I don't want to pressure you, Julia. We've only been together for a few months. But I've never been more certain of anything than I am of my feelings for you." Julia's heart raced. "What are you saying, Harry?" "I'm not proposing." "Not yet," he clarified quickly. "But I want you to know that's where I see this heading. I love you, and I want to build a life with you, a family that includes Lily, whether she's living under our roof or visiting regularly." The honesty of his declaration moved Julia deeply. "I want that too," she admitted. "I've been afraid to think too far ahead, to hope for too much. But the truth is, I can't imagine my life without you and Lily in it." Harry pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "Then we're on the same page. The details, timing, living arrangements, all of that we can figure out together. What matters is that we want the same future." Julia nodded against his chest, feeling more secure than she had in months. The uncertainty that had lingered at the edges of their happiness, the temporary nature of their current arrangement, the question of what would happen when Lily returned to her parents hadn't disappeared entirely. But knowing they were committed to facing it together made it less daunting. That evening, as they sat on the terrace watching Lily practice her dance routine on the lawn, Harry's arm around Julia's shoulders and the spring sunset painting the sky in brilliant colors, Julia felt a profound sense of contentment. The journey from dance teacher to something much more significant had been unexpected but perfect in its way, each lesson bringing them closer, each shared moment building a foundation for the future they both wanted. "What are you thinking?" Harry asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Julia smiled, watching as Lily executed a perfect pirouette on the grass. "I'm thinking about first impressions," she said. "How I arrived here months ago with my dance bag, nervous about teaching in such a grand house. How I had no idea that day would change everything." Harry pressed a kiss to her temple. "Best decision I ever made, hiring you to teach Lily." "I thought finding her was just another job," Julia mused. "I never expected to find a family." "Funny how life works out," Harry said, his voice warm with contentment. "Sometimes the most unexpected dance partners turn out to be the perfect match." As if on cue, Lily called out to them, "Watch this." She launched into the combination they'd been working on for weeks, her movements graceful and confident. Harry and Julia applauded enthusiastically when she finished, their shared pride evident in their expressions. Lily ran to them, flushed with success, and threw herself into a three-way hug that encompassed all they had become to each other. And in that moment, surrounded by the love they'd created together, Julia knew with absolute certainty that this unexpected dance, this beautiful, complex, joyful dance of building a family, was one she wanted to perform for the rest of her life.